Welcome back to another episode of the Empower Grief Journey podcast. I'm your host, Chris Mamone, and I'm an acceptance coach who helps people heal from grief, loss, and trauma to discover their self acceptance and step into their personal power. This podcast is your dedicated space for healing, growth, and transformation. Each episode shares insightful and inspirational stories, along with practical tools and actionable insights that can help guide you along your healing journey. Today, I have a special guest with us. Her name is Dearice Spencer Shackelford. She's a motivational speaker, certified master life coach, author, and founder of Dearice Speaks Life LLC. Her grief journey began in childhood when her father experienced a severe mental health crisis and never fully recovered. That early sense of abandonment shaped much of her life until it was compounded years later by the devastating loss of her husband, a United States Marine veteran, leaving her to raise her three children as a widowed mother. Rather than being defined by her grief, Dearice transformed her pain into purpose. Through faith, holistic healing, deep inner work, she rose from the ashes of loss and built a life dedicated to empowering others. Today, she helps single mothers and single women rise, heal, and lead through her signature program, Give Yourself Grace. She is also the author of the Re Up devotional and host of the Healing Hour podcast, where she shares real stories, practical tools, and spiritual strategies for navigating life's hardest moments. Dearice's journey is a powerful testament to the strength found in vulnerability, the resilience born through grief, and the healing that happens when we permit ourselves to grow through what we go through. So, without further ado, Dearice, I want to welcome you onto the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Chris. I'm excited about being here with you today.
I am too. It was a real pleasure
Mhm.
getting to meet you a couple weeks ago, and
Same
I want to
here.
I wanted to give you some space here as we get started to share a little bit more about yourself and more about your story with today's audience.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Let me know when you're ready for me to tell.
Well, I'll let you get started.
Okay, so as you read, I lost my dad, not physically, but psychologically and emotionally due to a psychosis, and he never fully recovered. And then I dealt with that at the age of 10 and about 10 to 12. And then when I became an adult in 2017 and in 2017 of December of 2017, I lost my father physically. He passed on. And then 30 days later, I lost my husband. And from that was birthed my my company, Dearice Speaks Life. I founded Dearice Speaks Life,
Mm.
which I started off as a motivational speaker and life coach. And I was like, I wanted to share my story of healing with others in the world so that others could heal holistically. And this is without any prescription drugs. I didn't want to do it that way. And with me having a degree in psychology and also working at a psych hospital, I was like, I don't want to do the prescription drugs. And at that time, the head psych doctor of the hospital, he would come see me every day. I was still working a 12-hour shift going through my morning period at the beginning of my morning. So I would still go to work every single day. It did not stop. I still had to raise my children. I still had to take care of my home. So I was at work every single day. And in between clients and my coworkers walking past me, I was crying. My face was completely red. My eyes were like I was crying so much. And my the head psych doctor, he decided he would come every day and he would talk to me. He literally took me on as a patient, and me not thinking about it, he would talk to me every single day. He came in and he would stand there for like 30 minutes to 45 minutes just talking to me. And he told me, he's like, so what do you need? And I was like, I said, I'll be okay. He said, that's not what I asked you. He said, what do you need? I said, I don't even know what I need. He said, what are you doing? And I told him what I was doing. I was like, I'm crying mainly. He's like, okay. I said, are you asking me, do I need any prescription? He's like, I'm trying to ask you what you want to do. And I said, I don't want to do prescription drugs. I don't. I don't like swallowing pills. That's not for me. I don't like it. And he was like, okay. He's like, I believe you can do this and get back on your feet and heal without it. He's like, and I want to see how you're going to do it. But every day he would bring me, excuse me, my dog is barking. He would bring me books. And at this time, 2017, 2018, I think it was maybe about a year or maybe 2 years after Game of Thrones came out, he brought me every season of Game of Thrones in order for me to, you know, redirect my emotions. He always brought me something to distract me. And I thank Dr. Strahan for that. And it helped me to embark on a healing journey that was deeper so that I can help others. I just got tired of crying. I got tired of the darkness. I completely just said one day, God, if you're not going to take me, you're going to have to heal me because I am hurting. My heart was broken. I couldn't even, I was, I don't even understand how I was making it because I don't remember waking up. I don't remember going to work. I remember sitting at my desk. I remember answering phones. I remember directing people, but from every night, I cried every single night. And so I decided, well, God, if you're not going to take me, like, why am I going through this? What was the purpose? And I heard God say just clearly, I'm going to show you how to heal, and then you're going to do it. You're going to teach other people how to do it too. And I said, me? How me? I'm not the type of person. If you know me personally, I don't like to be on stage speaking. I rather sing. I'm a performer. I'm a singer. I'm a dancer. I recite poetry. That's the kind of stuff I was always doing. I never wanted to be on a mic like that, like standing in front of people. But God said, I'm going to teach you how to do it. And once I teach you, you're going to be able to share this with the world and show people that they can heal and become successful. That's what's stopping them. It's
Mm.
not just this, where you at. He said, it's everything. It's an encompassment of this. It's not just you losing your father and your husband. He's like, it's all of it. You have a lot more to heal from. And I believe the loss of my father and my husband was the breaking point to break me open. If that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here today. I really wouldn't. I would have been happily married to my husband, devoting all of my time to my husband, whatever he wanted to do, however he wanted. And he was a Marine vet. So I was willing to dedicate my life to just my husband and my children because I didn't see nothing else. I was like, well, that's fine. I love all of them. So that would have been fine. But you know how they say the 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 cemetery is the wealthiest place in the world because everyone
Mm.
that's there usually die with their dreams that can transform people's lives. And it's the most wealthiest place in the world because some of those people don't ever get a chance to create the things that they wanted to create or live the dreams that they wanted to live. And none of that. And I realized at a certain point I was about to die with all of this in me, and I wanted to. So once I went through this deep healing, I mean deep. My job, they fired me. Really didn't care because I was hurting on the inside. I was like, I don't care. I was gonna quit a week ago. So you firing me a week later? Oh, that's fine with me. I'm cool. I'm good with that. God allowed me to be able to go home and heal in my home during the pandemic. Like I mean, the pandemic happened in about 2019, COVID 2019. And I was already on a healing journey, but I didn't know how deeply I was hurt from this. And like I said, it broke me open. I thought my heart was like, I literally felt my heart broken in pieces. Like it would ache so much. And I said, God, if I'm experiencing this and you want me to help other people, how am I going to tell people that you got to heal? I'm broken myself. God said, I'm going to heal you. I'm going to show you how to do it. I began to meditate. I started listening to frequencies. to calm my mind. I started meditating when I wake up in the morning. At this time, I didn't have a job, so I was able to do this. Wake up, meditate. That's the first thing I did. Well, of course, I wake my children up so that they can go to school. But when I had my time, I meditated. I read books. I watched different things. I stopped watching TV. I started focusing more on my spiritual healing with God. I waited for instructions on what to do each day. I began to journal. I began to write down my ideas, my dreams, my goals, my desires. I never did that. I hadn't done that since I was in high school. I began to write down the things, how I wanted my life to be. And I had literally heard God say, "What do you want your life to look like? Write it down." And it reminded me of a scripture because I was raised in church. I was raised devout Pentecostal. So I was raised on scriptures, the Bible. And there's a scripture that states, write the vision down, make it plain on tablets. So you're supposed to write down your vision. You're supposed to write down your dreams. You're supposed to do that. That's how you manifest them, because now your brain, psychologically speaking, from my expertise in school, your brain now sees your handwriting and says, "Oh, this is the new program that we want. We want to see this. We want to experience this." And the things that you write down, you then read, and then I was reading it every single day and adding new stuff to it. I got it inspired by my own dreams. Like, oh, we can dream big. Let's write some more. And before I knew it, I was starting to travel again. I had gotten a mentor because I wanted to start my business. That June of 2018, I started my business. I was just going live on Facebook. Had no website, had no CTA, no call to action. I just knew that God called me to help people. And the books I was reading, like Think and Grow Rich, How to Influence People and Make Friends, and all of these, Napoleon Hill. I was listening to all Jim Rohn. I started listening to motivational speakers. My whole mindset began to change as I began to do more meditating. I began to do more outdoor grounding, taking my shoes off and standing in the grass and just standing there and just looking up at the sun. And I don't know why I was doing it. I remember doing it as a child, but then I started doing it as an adult again. And I was like, oh my God, I feel so much better. Having a headache, going outside, taking my shoes off, standing in the grass, just looking up. Over time, I began to notice that what I ate changed. I no longer wanted processed foods. I wanted vegetables, fruits. So in, I started doing inner work that was looking to everyone else is crazy, but I began to realize that this is how you heal holistically. It's with nature, it's with God, it's with prayer, it's with meditation, it's with contemplation, it's with intentionality. Like, what are you focusing on today? Not the rest of the week, just today. You woke up today. What do you want to do today? Or, Most High God, God, what do you want me to do today? Spirit, lead me in the way you want me to lead. I began to open my ears and listen to instructions. Then I started getting instructions on a signature coaching program. And then I started connecting with different people that could help me develop these programs. It was amazing how God was placing people in my life to develop this program, my business, encouraging me, telling me, Dearice, you're gonna help so many people. So the company that I founded and created was and is Dearice Speaks Life. I help single mothers and single women heal holistically from trauma, drama, grief, and loss so that they can become more successful and change the trajectory of their lives and their children's lives. And you say, how do you do that, Dearice? I'll tell you how. I help them heal
Mhm.
holistically by showing them these 7 pillars that I myself has have implemented in my life so that they can heal holistically without prescription drugs. I encourage them to go to therapy. I too go to therapy, which helped me a whole lot in the end. I didn't go to therapy in the beginning. I wasn't ready yet. But later on, I think I've been in therapy for 2 years now. And it's not even about grief, it's for anxiety. So it's helping in other areas as well, but the main area was anxiety. So I encourage my clients, get you a therapist, work on that past stuff because I can help you with the present stuff. Presently, the hurt that you're feeling now from something from the past, but how to heal you moving forward so that you can progress in your life. That's what I do. So when people come to me, and usually I'm usually called to someone is usually placed in my heart. I'll see their face or they'll have a conversation with me just randomly. Hey, you're Dearice. Yes.
I
Yes, I
love
am.
that.
So it's like, okay, it's divine connection, divine alignment, and divine assignment. That's how I look at it. So when it comes down to my clients, they're usually selected by God. It's a divine ordainment, not me. I'll reach out to some people, and those people will be like, no, I'm all right. That sounds a little weird because it's nothing tangible that you see. We create it as you go because you're designing a plan for your life, how you want to live your life moving forward. What would be your dreams? What is it that the biggest dream you can have? And sometimes mothers, oh, we have a hard time doing self-care for ourselves. And I'm not talking about getting our nails and our hair done. I'm not just talking about that or getting a facial. I'm talking about real deep, devoted self-care. That is that devotion that you can't see, where you're saying no to somebody that you've always said yes to because today you don't feel like doing it and not feeling guilty for saying no. It's learning how to give yourself that pep talk, which I call self talk. You have to transform your negative self talk to positive self talk so that you can build yourself up internally. It is called self esteem, and you have to esteem yourself. Mothers don't do that. We don't do that. We're always building everybody else up. Mothers are the foundation, but if you have a weak foundation, eventually things are going to crumble. And with mothers, it doesn't show up like everybody else. It shows up in an attitude. It shows up in I'm staying in the bathroom longer than normal, or I'm in my room, the door is locked, you can't come in. You keep calling mommy and she doesn't hear you, or she's tuning you out, or she's sitting in her car with the doors locked and she's just sitting there. It looks differently when we're dealing with things, it looks differently on us. And if you're an overachiever or someone who's constantly uh, setting more goals. I gotta keep going. I gotta do this. Or I'm saying yes to all these projects and wearing so many hats, and yet I have no time for me. That is a sign of abandonment. If I don't do, people won't be. And
Mm.
and I'm working on my next project, which is my book, and it's about abandonment and helping single mothers heal from abandonment, but it shows up differently. So the healing that I help single mothers do is internal healing.
I think that's really beautiful because a lot of us, women and men, both need to work within and stop going
Mm-hmm.
without. Because what I teach in my own coaching practice, and I go from Stoic philosophy of things, is that we don't control anything outside of us at all. We don't control who's going to be in front of us driving down the freeway when we go to work. We don't control who's
True.
checking us out at the grocery store. We don't control if our kids are going to act up one day and be nice the next. We don't control those things. And so when
Mm-hmm.
we're always focused on what we can't control, we're always going to be unhappy. We're always going to feel abandonment. We're going to feel fear of some kind, whether it's rejection. We're going to lose our sense of self, like you talked about with self-esteem. we're going to lose our sense of self. And I think that's a big thing to be able to show people how to go within and start seeking those things. Because as you brought up today, and you touched on so many things I'd love to ask you about off of what you just talked about, but one of those big things is that we all have the answers within us, all of us do. But a lot of
Definitely.
times it takes somebody like you or I to come along and say, hey, let me help you pull that out of you a little bit. Because there's this phrase one of my college professors had called the seeing person in the room full of blind people. And I've kind of adapted that to coaching in a lot of ways, that there's always going to be somebody that can see things that you can't. And that's
Hmm.
okay, by the way. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with
Yes.
you. But being open-minded enough to say that I might need help on my journey and finding that right person, like you said to your clients, have a therapist. It's okay. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. That's a good person to have that can, again, help pull that stuff out of you, just like I'm doing.
Right.
And the more that you get people to support you on your journey, the more easily that can take place for you, that transformation you're looking for, that change you're looking for. Um, I loved what you said, by the way, about the doctor that helped you at your last job. That person that there's so many people I could share stories for hours about this in my own life, but I've had people like that that we don't ask for help, but they show up on our path for a reason, and it's always not just by coincidence. It wasn't random. It wasn't just by chance. They came there for a purpose. They were there for a
Right.
reason to get you through that area of life that you were going through. Um,
Right.
one of the big things I wanted to ask you, Dearice, because I think this will be powerful for my listeners on the podcast. You went through losing a husband and a father all within 30 days. I mean, that is a lot of loss all in one short time period of things. If you wouldn't mind describing what it was like, as far as what that period of loss felt like for you in that moment, and what were some key turning points for you that helped you start that healing journey from there?
Okay. What it felt like was darkness and abandonment. It felt alone. It felt awkwardly eerie, but weird and familiar.
Mm.
Uh, in the sense of, I lost my grandmother in 2013 and she raised me. I mean, 2012,
Mm.
excuse me, 2012. And she raised me. And it took I was pregnant at the time. So it took everything in me not to completely just as they say, just fall apart because I was carrying another human being. I had to hold it together. But after having her and months later, I started going to therapy for that. And it was when the therapist told me, she said, you're not mourning your grandmother, you're mourning your mother. She raised you. That's why it hurts so bad. That's why you can't get past it. And I was like,
Mm.
once she brought that out and brought it to the forefront of it was your mother. That's why it hurts. She was your mother. It was you didn't think of her as your grandmother. You called her that, but internally and emotionally, she was your mother. So it felt like that moment again of being abandoned, of being in darkness. And this time it was way worse. I mean, I could literally describe that I was sitting in a room and I was all the way in the back. You know how in those horror movies they zoom out and it makes the hallway look really long?
Yeah.
That's how I felt. I felt like I was in a dark corner and the room was so wide, so far out. And yet in the corner over there, like way over there, it's like so far away, it was light. And for me, that was debilitating. And I was dealing with it every single day, every single day. And I said, I'm going to fight my way out of here. It was hard, but the transformational moment happened when I had an anxiety attack and I hyperventilated in the bathroom because the crying became so much for me. And I was literally facing the hinges of the closed door. And I told God, if you're not going to take me out of this world, you're going to have to heal me. I am tired of hurting. I am tired of crying. I am tired of this. And eventually, like after I said, like, I'm tired, I'm so tired, I'm so tired, I hyperventilated and I couldn't catch my breath. And then all of a sudden, I just felt God's arms wrap around me and comfort me. And I slowly started catching my breath. It was as if I was having an asthma attack. Like that's what I felt when I was younger. And I just started, it just slowed down. I stopped crying, slowed down. I took in a big inhale, and I was in the dark. I didn't even go in the bathroom to look at myself. I wouldn't look at myself. When you are really in depression, in a depressant state, in that state of mind, you don't look at yourself. Like I don't know how I was looking to everybody else. But that night, it was like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. That night, when I finally caught my breath, and I told you earlier what God told me, I looked in the mirror at myself. I turned on the light and looked in the mirror at myself. My hands were on the basin of the sink. And I said, I don't know why we're going through this. And I looked myself in the face and I said, I don't know why we're going through this, but it's got to be for a purpose. And if God didn't leave us now, God's not going to leave us. And then that's when I heard God say all of it. I'm going to teach you how to heal. And then I'm going to teach you. So that was the transformational moment for me. It was alone. Everyone's asleep. And it's amazing how nobody heard me crying or hyperventilating. And from that moment on, I just completely became focused. After I heard God tell me that, I said, well, I guess that's what I'm going to be doing. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I guess that's what I'm going to be doing. I left the bathroom, turned off the light, went and got in my bed, and I slept. That was the first night I slept and not cried myself to sleep. I fell asleep completely at peace. And that's where it started.
That's incredible. I love that faith has played a big role in your healing journey because I've had a lot of moments like that where God has shown up in my life, and not because I just directly asked for it, but I always felt that there was always a presence around me when I went through
Mm-hmm.
those losses that I went through. And I do believe that we go through these things. One of my biggest phrases I share is that these events don't happen to us, they happen for us. And that's a
I agree.
very I think when you're in the throes of grief, by the way, that's a very hard thing to hear. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
sharing that because that's how I felt when somebody
No,
told
it's
that
the
to me.
truth. It's the
Um,
truth. Because I kept asking everybody, but why? But why this? Yeah.
And I think that's what's hard because, when we do experience those kinds of losses, it is the first question we ask, why me? Why did I have to go through this? Why am I being the chosen one to suffer?
Mhm.
And it's very hard for us to understand that because we lost somebody or someone that was very important in our life, somebody that we spent a lot of years with. And we're now having to rationalize that that person's gone and this whole new world that we're going to step into, we can't even be who we thought we were before grief happened. We're now stepping
Right.
into who we're becoming. And it's a lot of
Right.
uncertainty. It's a lot of unknown. It's a lot of what am I going to expect and who am I now?
Right.
Who's the real me? You know?
Yes. Yes. The redefining yourself is part of my program as well. Part of my coaching program. Because I help women figure out who are you now? Not just who you were when it happened, but who are you now? You can recreate yourself. And some people be like, no, that's not good. Yes, it is. Do you not know every child needs a different mother at different times? You can't parent every child the same way. That's how it is when it comes down to you. In every chapter of your life, it's a different year required because you can't be the senior in high school you now. There would be
Yeah.
no way. The 18, 17, 18-year-old me in high school, the militant me couldn't be here today. She couldn't, she would be like, this is stupid. This is, she was so militant. Like we need to be doing something. We need to be doing. And sometimes it's maybe relax, breathe for a little bit, because the me now sees that if it hadn't have been for the healing, the militant me wouldn't be able to survive right now. The militant me would have found some way to be reactive. Like, I'm angry. You know that phrase, hurt people, hurt people. I just, it's a cop out to me, but it really would have been that situation. So you're right. We have to figure out, who are you now? And with healing, you find out things that, oh, wow, I really like doing this. I went kayaking. I was like, this. I said, I want to start doing new things. And I went kayaking with a friend and I loved it. Never been kayaking before in my life. Not an exceptionally great swimmer, but I went anyway. I was scared and I went, and I found out that I liked it. It's about after the circumstance. How are you living after? And my phrase is life. Life is living in full engagement. You have to live. Your family member does not want you to stop living. They don't want that for you. They want you to be happy. They want you to love. They want you to laugh. They want you to live. And with healing through your circumstances and rising from your circumstances, you find out who you are now. And I agree with you, Chris.
Well, one thing you touched on, my grandfather said to me a long time ago, and I didn't fully understand it to all the stuff I went through in the last 5 years, but we're not the same people as we navigate this world of life. And he said to me one day when I was really young, and I now get it. Obviously, 20 years later, I get it. You're never going to be the same person you were at 20 years old as you're going to be at 25. And the same person you were at 30 is 35 and 50 and 60. You're never going to be the same person. And he said, you should never want to be the same person because that person never grew if that's the case. That person never
Exactly.
experienced things. That person doesn't know how to adapt to life when it happens. And so you want to be a changed person. You want to say that from 30 to 35, say, that wasn't fun. I didn't like losing my father. I didn't like losing my grandfather. I didn't like losing my kid. I didn't like those things. But they made me a better person because I
Right.
experienced it. And now I'm this person that can go out there and help other people in similar circumstance.
Right. I agree.
I love your perspective, Doris. I wanted to ask you a little bit more when you're working with single women and moms in your
Hmm.
coaching practice. What are some of the biggest obstacles you see when they come to you that they're looking to overcome?
Lack.
Mm.
Single mothers and single women usually struggle with lack most of all, whether it's lack in love, lack in finances, lack in support, lack. It's I don't want to say that it's all of them, but the majority of it, it's the mindset of lack. I don't have enough. How do I need to make more. I need to do more. And I said, if you keep trying to create more so you won't be in lack, that's what you're creating. Because mentally you're thinking, I don't have enough, I don't have enough, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough this, I don't have enough this, I need more money, I need more this. When in actuality, you probably need to breathe. Yeah, breathe. For one, breathe. I have them calm down. So because they're so wound up. And I can understand because they are the breadwinners. If it's not, if they don't do it, it won't get done. And I tell them, I said, it's gonna get done because God is gonna be with you. I remind them that your mindset has a lot to do with a lot of things that you experience. And it's about your perception. And so I say lack, but it's really a perception change. They need direction in changing their perception about their life instead of thinking that it's always happening to me. Woe is me, the woe is me syndrome. But for moms, it sounds totally different. I have to do it all by myself. If I don't do it, nobody else will. I have to do this and I have to do that. And I only can be out of work when my children are in school. So what am I supposed to do? And so then I have to help them change their perspective. And I start asking them simple questions. Do you have assistance? Well, yes. What kind of assistance do you need? Okay. Do you have help? Somebody that will help you watch your children? Well, yes. I try not to. I said, but you said yes. So let me give you an example of one client. One client, she was just stressed out. She needed a job. I need a job. I need a job. I need a job. If I could just get a job, everything would be all right. If I could just get a job. And I told her, I said, you're going to get a job, but there's something you need to release in order for that job to show up in your life. I said, you're holding on to the concept of nobody wants to hire me. And I said, you have to change your perspective. Like, have you gone every place? Have you reached out to everybody you know? Well, I've reached out to a lot of people. Okay, you've reached out to a lot of people. Now let's reach out to the lot of people that you don't know. Try that. And she started posting it on Facebook. And I was like, okay. And I saw anybody, I'm looking for a job. Anybody know of anybody? And people started like tagging her and things. And so I said, it seems to me like you needed to change your perception of what was going on in your life. There's many avenues to solve your problem. You just can't sit there and say that, oh, nobody wants to hire me. Maybe that's not the somebody that's supposed to hire you. The place you're supposed to be is of divine alignment. And the people there are going to love, cherish, and respect you. And I said, that's where you want to be, not the place where they don't hire you. That's their loss. After working with her, 2 weeks later, she got a job.
Well, there we go.
2 weeks later.
I
And
love that.
I was like, this is all your perception. I had nothing to do with it. I just pointed it out to just, how about we think this way? How about we turn this way and look and not keep looking at the side that's making you angry or anxious or feeling in lack or that you're unsuccessful. I said, start looking at the small things that you're doing. I reached out to 5 people today. I called 10 people today. I talked to different people, about my situation today. That's, you're accomplishing your goal. You're getting closer because you're doing the work. I tell all of my clients, you have to do the inner work. It's here and here that needs to heal. The outside is going to resemble and reflect what's going on internally.
Dearice, you've brought up a topic that throughout this podcast, and I've been dying to ask you this question because we all have a story we tell ourselves, especially when
Mhm.
we go through grief or loss or trauma. There's a story that gets created on top of the story behind us. And oftentimes it's a story of, well, this is my life. And then all of a sudden get hit with grief and loss and trauma. And now we have another story we make. And sometimes that story does lean into this happened to me situation. What's some advice you could share with people? Because you've talked about grief today and your loss, and you've been very vulnerable about your experience and what happened with you going through your losses. But you've also shared this powerful way that shifted your story and shifted your narrative. How would you guide other people on that path to learn how to change their story?
One, I would say breathe, and not shallow either. I mean, really deep breaths. I have a method called the 444 method, but I really do 5 breaths where you sit down quietly, then you inhale for a count of 5, then you hold it for a count of 5, then you exhale. And yes, you do it with your eyes closed. And then I have them do it at least 5 times. Do it 5 times. And if you're still feeling a little anxious about whatever it is that you're going through right now, do it again. Do it as many times as you need to until you really feel grounded. Then I need you to think. I need you to be intentional about what you're thinking. Pay attention to what you're thinking, what you're feeling. And how did you get to that point? What led you there? Now I want you to take out a piece of paper. This is what I do. I tell them, take out a piece of paper and pen. Write your feelings down. And they look at me like, huh? Write your feelings down. What are you feeling? What are you feeling? Like, we don't even take the time to acknowledge what we're feeling anymore because we're always pushing it aside. And that suppression leads to depression. I always say that you
Mm.
got to deal with what you're feeling and to evaluate them. Part of my seven pillar program framework is you have to harness those feelings. You got to sit down and think about it. And then you have to affirm yourself. You're reading what you feel. Now, is it true? Is this a fact? Like, look at it. Is this a fact? Do you feel like you're worthless? Like, is it a fact? Are you worthless? Can you not do anything for yourself? Can you tie your shoe? And I do simple things, simple questions. Because when you start asking yourself questions, you're really going to look for the truth. And so I guide them on a journey of self-reflection so that they become more self-aware. And then I give them those tips, the breathing tips, because that breath work, we don't even breathe properly as humans when we become adults. If you watch a baby breathe, their belly rises and fall, not their chest.
Hmm.
Adults, our chests rise and fall because we're not breathing properly. And I find myself doing it.
Interesting.
Yeah. When you take a deep breath, you probably go like this. Your shoulders go up. And you're like, when you really take a deep breath in, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna show you exactly. I'm gonna sit up properly. And then I'm gonna show you when you take a real deep breath in, your belly inflates like a balloon, like a drum. It gets really tight. And you feel your lungs expand like that. And you feel like they're about to bust, but they aren't. The more you inhale, and I'm actually holding in my inhale, and you can just keep going and keep going and keep going. And then eventually, if you hold it, you'll feel a little dizzy because that's the actual oxygen going to your brain. And then you exhale.
Mm.
And you feel a little bit better. You kind of relax because your body just did the actual thing that it was meant to do. You've actually pulled in the oxygen that your body needs to all of your organs. And then it's going to want you to do it again because later on, you're probably going to start yawning like, "Ugh, why am I yawning? You need oxygen. You're wondering why you're frazzled. Like, I can't even think straight. Have you been breathing? That's why
Yeah.
when you have an anxiety attack, they tell you to breathe. Just breathe. Just breathe. And I like to get my clients to just breathe. They want to talk, 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 talk. And I want to tell them so much. Can you just breathe for me? And I sit there and I wait. And I wait. And I wait. And I change my pose all the time. And I'm like, hmm, oh, okay. Yeah. And then I said, did you breathe in between all of that you was telling me? There's like, oh no, not really. I said, so now we can start. Did you get it all out? And they say, well, yeah. And they feel bashful then. And I was like, yeah, I just asked you how your day was going. So unexpected. And the thing is they people want to connect with people, but they have to connect with themselves first. And it's frightening because the world tells you with social media, you're so used to connecting with everyone instead of the one.
I couldn't agree more with you on that because I'm really bad about breathing personally, and As you were talking, I was laughing because I've been breathing really shallow and quiet the whole time. And I tend to do that on podcasts because I'm so like focused on paying attention. But you're right. And I've always shown that to people myself when I coach. I say, you don't think about it because your body's autonomous system runs your lungs and your breathing and everything. But if you actually pay attention to it, you'll catch yourself really like minimally breathing. And that's why you'll start feeling off kind of thing, or you'll feel tired, is that not enough oxygen's getting in here.
Right.
Um,
And you
you know,
can't
so
think straight either.
yeah, I mean, sometimes I've had clients that come to me in a bad spot where they're just having a really rough day, and I say, get out of your chair right now, like get up. And I make them move. I'll do like a simple exercise
Yes.
like this to
Mm-hmm.
move
Yes.
move the body around, get some movement going. And it kind of it really wakes up your system. It wakes up your brain,
Yes,
gets you out
because
of
you're gonna
that
breathe
daze.
in. You're gonna breathe. You're gonna, okay. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. And then it's like, yeah, that feels so much better.
And I think that's what a lot of people that have anxiety, by the way, I always tell them movement's a great thing if you have anxiety. It's an excellent thing. Go exercise, jump on a bike, go for a walk, go for a run.
True.
Um, Move your body around because that anxiety is pent up energy with nowhere to go and it's ricocheting inside you. And that's why you feel so off or you feel nauseous or your head's spinning 1,000 miles an hour.
Right?
You got trapped energy in there. You got to let it out kind of thing. It's
True. True. True.
I
I
I
agree with
tell it's
you.
a, I tell people, if you left a dog locked up in a house for 2, 3, 4 days, that thing would go nuts because it's got to get outside and run. So what it's gonna start doing is destroying your house, eating up your furniture, kicking stuff over. It's gonna start causing a mess in your house. Anxiety is that same thing, only it's doing it
Yes.
inside you. So let it out.
Right.
Give it a place to have an out. Um,
Right.
Dearice, this has been really powerful to have you on today's episode of the podcast. I really appreciate you being vulnerable enough to share your story about your losses that you went through. I'm very, very sorry that you had to go through losing your father and your husband all within a month. That's a lot of trauma in a very close window of time. But more importantly, I really appreciate you also sharing your spirituality side of your healing path and really explaining how God walked alongside you in that path and put you on this trajectory to go help other women learn how to heal because you had to walk that walk yourself. I think you're a very strong, powerful individual going out there to help other people. And it
Thank
means a lot to me to have the opportunity to talk to you today. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I love what you're doing. I love the podcast. I've been listening to the guests. So yeah, I think it's a really wonderful outlet that you've created, a platform that you created for others to help others heal. I'm all about that. I mean, we're all each one teach one, each one reach one. This is how we all heal as a collective. And that's what we're here to do.
Well, that's what I realized in my own healing journey because I was depressed for many years after losing my son, and I tried to ask myself. I always wanted to be a coach the last 5 years, and this podcast showed me that. My one of my podcast guests, Sean Grant, I've never forgotten him because he said, man, grief chose you, and somehow you chose grief. And I said, I
Mhm.
would never be doing what I'm doing right now had I not gone through my losses I have. And very similar to you, you wouldn't be here
Same.
today had your
Exactly.
father and your husband gone the way they did, you wouldn't be on this path. So,
Mm-mm.
um, I always tell people that what Dearice said today about divine alignment. I'm here to tell you guys from personal experience that is a real thing. That is not something to look over or gloss over or skip over. That is something that is very, very real. And what you saw today with Dearice's story, grief and loss doesn't have to be a very hard thing. It's going to feel that way initially, but there's a lot of gifts that are going to come out of that for you. And once you find those, you're going to be out there to be able to go out there and serve other people in a very large capacity.
True. True. And I wanted to say this too, even in the beginning of your grief, of this stage of grief, feel your feelings. Do not suppress them. Let them out. You need to yell, go yell. You need to scream, go scream. You need to cry, cry. Allow yourself to experience that. You are a spiritual being having a human experience, but you are here to experience it. That's why it feels so strongly. You have to let that out. You have to release it in order to heal it. If you do not acknowledge this and release it, it will never ever heal. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to heal and to become better.
Dearice, that was beautifully said. I appreciate you sharing that. As I wrap up the podcast, I usually ask my guests a couple questions. And my first
Okay.
one that I'll start with is if you were to meet somebody who's in grief right now or currently feels stuck in grief, what's one thing you would share with them to help them navigate that just a little bit easier?
One, physical touch, a hug. I would ask first, of course, I would ask their permission. Do you mind if I hug you? Do you mind if I sit down next to you? Do you mind if I stand close to you? Because being an empath, you naturally feel what they're feeling. So I always ask, can I give you a hug? Can I stand beside you? Can I touch you? And if they say yes, I'll give them the hug or touch their shoulder, whichever one they're more receptive to. Then I'll tell them I've been there. And I can tell you right now, you're there to go through it. You're gonna make it through this. I know it doesn't seem like it right now, but you are. You're stronger than this. But right now, you have to release this. Do whatever you need to do. Make sure you do a memorial to your loved one. Whatever that memorial is, it could be a dinner. I suggest them to do a dinner. Create that person's favorite dinner or paint something in their favorite color. Write them a poem, write them a letter. I do writing letters a lot with my clients because it's a visual aid that they can either read aloud or they can burn. Whatever way you want to do it, or you can take it to the grave site and read the letter to the person. It's about releasing and getting those feelings out because like you said, it's like the anxiety, it's pent up. But if you suppress it, then you're leading yourself right to depression. So I'll definitely hug them, give them some tips, some suggestions, and stay as long as I need to in order for them to, I'm okay. Yeah, that helped. That helped. That's what I like to do. I
I,
love that
I
part.
love that. I love that because I think people that are in those throes, they need, there's something about giving people a hug. I'm like you. When I see a hurting people, I'm like, you need a hug right now, man.
Yeah, come on, bring it in. I'm like,
Bring
bring
it
it
in.
in. You need a hug. Come on. Can I hug you? Can I give you a hug? I go like this. Can I give you a hug?
I love that. And Dearice, I wanted to ask too, if people want to connect with you after listening to today's episode, how can they get in touch with you and where can we find you?
Okay, you can find me on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Dearice Speaks Life. That is the spelling of my first name, the word speaks, and the word life, LLC. And you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And you can always Google me. You can reach out to me when you Google Dearice Spencer Shackelford. I pop right on up. And my link, you can email me as well, DeariceSpeaksLife@gmail.com, and connect with me there.
I love that. Well, for listeners today, I just want you guys to know in the show notes, if you're listening on Podbean or Apple or Spotify, I will have all Dearice's links in there so you guys can follow her on social media, follow her on our website. Again, Dearice, thank you so much for being a guest today on the Empower Grief Journey podcast. It's been a real pleasure.
Same here. Thank you for having me, Chris. I really enjoyed being here with you today. Thank you.
And I want to thank all of our listeners today for joining Dearice and I on this episode of the Empower Grief Journey podcast. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with somebody you know who could benefit from Dearice's story. For more episodes that are designed to empower you and support you during your grief journey, visit empowergriefjourney.com and subscribe to this podcast. You can also find us on Apple and Spotify. The Empower Grief Journey is all about honoring your journey, embracing your emotions, and finding strength in your own time. I want you guys to know you're never alone on this journey, and together we can navigate grief with courage and compassion. Until next time, be kind to yourself and take your grief journey one step at a time.